Hey there, friends and enemies, Joe here again, and we're getting major changes in Destiny 2 with Lightfall, and now we've got some more weapon tuning that is coming. And initially, this talks about changes to PvE, which I'm very excited about because there is going to be a new meta for heavy weapons, which has been a long time coming. We've been in a linear weapon meta for a long time, and I can't wait to see what benefits from all these changes and talk about the ones that I think are going to be the best once next season does hit. But obviously we're going to see the new weapons as well to see which one of those are really doing well also. So yeah, they've already done some PvP adjustments, which more are incoming as well. The new weapon changes, everything else is new and changing Lightfall. We're looking forward to seeing what combinations players settle on. Legendary campaign, having a build ready for that is going to be very, very important in my personal opinion, because it is going to be challenging, but if you have the right build, it's not going to be as difficult. So Red Reticle now enabled on PC. Linear fusions, you saw this coming. Linear fusions outperform other heavy weapons for boss damage by a wide margin. Reduce damage versus champions, mini bosses, vehicles by 15%. Sleeper, Simulant, and Queensbreaker are unaffected. Massive. Sleeper is probably going to be very, very good next season. One of the best picks, in my opinion, as far as if you still want to use linears and if linears are still viable in certain content. Machine guns have been buffed a few times, but only in PvE. We opted to increase their base damage a little, which makes them more forgiving in PvP. It also applies to PvE as well. PvP damage is typically the base, and PvE has multipliers on top of that. Increased damage by 10%, with the following effects on time to kill against a Guardian. So it's reduced from 0.67 to 0.5. Oh yeah, so there's some massive changes there. Increased reserve ammo by 50% at 0 inventory stat and at 20% at 100. Inventory stat is 0 to 100, value based behind the scenes, presented as the actual number of rounds in game, but you can take this to mean that low reserve machine guns get a big boost, with large reserve machine guns getting a smaller boost. Again, more bullets, especially for something like target lock, that's going to be very, very good next season. As a Titan who runs Actium War Rig from time to time, this is going to be very nice because obviously I'm going to be able to dump way more ammo before it runs out. So overall, huge W. I love machine guns personally, so this is a big win in my book. Heavy grenade launchers haven't been touched in a while and are substantially below other heavy weapon options. On top of that, projectiles have travel time, ballistic arc, etc., so it can be hard to land consistent shots. With this change, heavy grenade launchers should be significantly more useful in PvE. Increased damage to champions, mini bosses, and vehicles by 20%. Miners by 40%. Improved projectile collision. Increased blast radius by 1 meter. And then Parasite is unaffected. It already does huge damage. Interesting online, they did mention that Anarchy is going to benefit from this, which is kind of, I don't know. I'm not ready for another Anarchy meta personally. I hope that's not the case. And I hope with the machine guns getting buffed that there are other viable options, or heavy grenade launchers are still really, really good. But overall, I think that's a W. I just worry about Anarchy specifically. Shotguns, the new shotgun reticles show the correct spread pattern. So shotgun reticles now change in size proportional to spread angle. This is good for people who are consistent shotgunners in PvP. Related note, the Legend of Accura's hipfire reticle is now a bit more representative of its very large spread angle. Kinetic weapons. Kinetic slot weapons have always done 5% more damage versus unshielded targets in PvE. That meant kinetic slot stasis weapons were straight up better with extra functionality and no downside. We wanted to give the players more of a reason to run kinetic damage type weapons, so instead of a blanket kinetic slot damage boost, we're switching to a kinetic damage type boost based on whether your kinetic weapon uses primary or special ammo. So kinetic primary weapons multiplier increased from 1.05 to 1.1. Kinetics weapons are 1.05 to 1.15. Kinetic slot stasis weapons no longer have the 5% damage buff. And then there's also a kinetic damage perk coming in Lightfall. So I feel like the kinetic damage perk is probably going to mean that whatever weapons you have in the kinetic slot are not going to be as good, unfortunately, and you might need to regrind, but generally this is just a blanket buff to kinetic weapons, which is good because it's kind of right. The stasis has overshadowed them when we've seen stuff like Headstone and some other perks like that just make it just flat out better. Exotics. So Queensbreaker blinding effect was underwhelming for a heavy weapon, so he changed that, and it's now shot changed to nearby enemies and uses Arc 3.0 blind. Good. Ruinous Effigy feels very voidy. So transmutation spheres, slam attacks now suppress. Huge. I love Ruinous Effigy. I know it's just a meme thing, but like it's so much fun. And now knowing that you can dunk on like champions and suppress them and all enemies and suppress them, it's gonna be great. I might actually use it a lot in PvP. Don't tell anybody though. Leviathan's Breath. And the Leviathan's Breath now applies volatile on perfect draw impact. Increased damage. This allows to one-hit kill all supers in PvP with a headshot. Increased damage versus champions by 30%. Leviathan's Breath was already very good, and I think this is going to be a top-tier pick for Grandmasters and Nightfalls and stuff like that. 1K Voices was briefly a top pick, but it has been eclipsed. Each explosion now applies 10 plus 5 with Ember of Ashes Scorch stacked. Okay, so does Scorch. Sunshot. Explosion on kill now applies 10 plus 5 Scorch stacks. That's a no-brainer. Makes sense. A lot of people are going to be using Sunshot in PvE. I feel like going forward, Polaris Lance, Perfect Fifth Shot now applies 40 plus 20 Scorch stacks instead of a custom burn. Good. Two-Tailed Fox Solar Rocket now applies Scorch stacks instead of burn. Void Rocket already applies Suppress, and the Catalyst completes the trifecta. Huge. It's very good. I think Two-Tailed Fox is going to be a lot of fun to use next season. I actually already enjoy using it. Prometheus Lens added Incandescent to Prometheus Lens Catalyst. Oh, that's going to be very fun. Incandescent on Prometheus Lens? Yeah, that's going to be really, really good. Grand Overture's latest buff brought it up plenty. It just needed its blind updated, so switch Catalyst to use Arc Blind. Makes sense. Hipfire Reticles added a reticle element to the mana core showing current stacks of Anti-Grav Repulsor. Okay, perks. Osmosis now works with Strand. Good. Elemental Capacitor now has the following effect when using Strand subclasses. Plus 20 airborne effectiveness. Nice. I mean, plus 25 for the enhancement. I mean, that's fine. If you're an airborne player, that's good. It seems like Strand with the grappling, that makes a lot of sense. Rewind rounds, say that 10 times fast, will be appearing on more weapons in Lightfall. Rebuild to work on non-vaulted class weapons. Eager Edge no longer deactivates when moving faster. Deactivates correctly after a single melee strength. Reduces the base lunge distance. Reduces airborne lunge. Okay, so it's kind of like a change all around. Blinding grenades and grenade launchers don't do arc damage, so they renamed them from blinding grenades to disorienting grenade. That makes sense. Vice Singer was too strong, so they're nerfing that. This was typically a full reload when the perk activated. Now it's 25% of the magazine. So your favorite weapons, like your Taipan, is not going to be the meta with the linear nerf and then the nerf to Vice Stinger. Use the Taipan while you can, but it's going to pretty much go bye-bye next season. We're already hard at work on season 22 and 21 and 22, and some of the changes we're making include adding full auto melee. Yes, as a Titan, I love that. Pass over weapon type and exotic hit weapon hipfire reticles, and adding features like charge meters and exotic perk counters. We also got balance changes in the works, but it's too early to get into them. We'll have more information post-Lightfall. Okay, overall, I think it's a W. I think there's a lot of changes. I feel like Destiny is at its best when a meta is rotating and not constantly the same thing. So, for me personally, I'm a fan of these changes. If only because it's going to have everybody searching for the new meta come Lightfall, and that'll be a lot of fun. Everyone will use different things. There'll be a lot of different builds to make, and I am very, very excited about all of that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Helps me out tremendously. Lots of videos coming on the road to Lightfall, and then obviously through Lightfall as well. I hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.